I've made hundreds of game trailers over the past 10 years, and the number one question I get, aside from, do you actually get to play the game? Yes, of course I play the game! The number one question is, what do I put in my trailer and in what order? All you need to do is make your trailer feel like a good verbal pitch. But there's so much more to it than that. Hi, I'm Lieu, and this is Video Game Trailer Academy, a series of videos to help you make better game trailers. One of the biggest challenges of making a great game trailer is choosing what to show and in what order. I think most people overthink this problem and end up making their trailers way worse. These are the most common mistakes I see, starting with what I call the indie game trailer environment montage. I've done this type of shot too, but I never put it at the beginning because all it says is, look how many biomes there are in this game. How can we care about biomes before seeing what you do in the game and what makes it unique? Related, a lot of trailers are front-loaded with montages of cosmetics and things which aren't related to gameplay. This is like trying to sell me on an ice cream shop a 30-minute drive away by saying, oh my god, look, we have so many flavors. Strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, coffee. Also, check out these toppings. Sprinkles, peanut butter cups, M&Ms. Every ice cream shop has flavors and toppings. So if that's your pitch, that's not worth a 30-minute drive. You can't sell something new by describing all the ways it's the same as what came before. It's okay to have this montage in the trailer. Just wait until at least halfway through the trailer to show it. Once we have a taste, only then will we care at all about the thing which extends out the gameplay, like collecting hats. Variety is a value multiplier, and you can't multiply nothing. The second mistake are trailers which show only shots from mid to late game. I think this is to skip the boring stuff and get to the most exciting shots. The problem is, these shots are often too much to process because we weren't given a basic understanding of the game before seeing all the bells and whistles. It would be like if this great trailer for Factorio started here, where the factory is already huge with tons of moving parts, rather than here, where we're looking at a single unit operating a tiny part of a factory with just a few machines and one conveyor belt. Admittedly, I've made trailers which start with scenes from mid to late game, like in my trailers for Skin Deep,
nothing left. He's getting away.
Spelunky 2, and Noita. But in those trailers, after the cold open, I go back to the beginning to explain the basics of the game. In Skin Deep, you emerge onto a ship, find the members of the cat crew, look for keys to get them out, and deal with guards along the way. In Spelunky 2, you start in the first level, jump around, and fight enemies. In Noita, you're trying to go as deep into the cave as possible, and everything in the game burns, crumbles, flows, and shatters like in real life. A section which shows the fundamentals is the key to understanding anything from mid to late game. More on this later. The third mistake I see most often are trailers which show too many aspects of the game. I know why they do this. Again, it's to show variety, and because after spending years making a game, developers are eager to show everything. This trailer for Hollow Knight is actually a great example because look at all these title cards. This is just a laundry list of every feature, which is a really boring way to talk about the game. But of course, the game was so transcendentally well made that this didn't matter. But most games are not Hollow Knight. The problem here is, by calling out so many aspects of the game, you're reducing their significance. Giving equal weight to every feature means no one or two stand out. For example, if a trailer for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild gave equal time to climbing, fishing, combat, cooking, talking to NPCs, solving puzzles, and decorating your house, this would be a terrible trailer for Breath of the Wild, because it wouldn't showcase how game-changing the exploration is. The actual trailers for Breath of the Wild spend a lot of time showing the climbing and exploration, not just in quantity, but the cinematography also highlights it. But if the trailers didn't make it clear, exploring and climbing is the thing in this game, people might get the impression there's just a few climbable surfaces. Of course, in the end, Nintendo in this hypothetical scenario botching that trailer would have been fine. But if you're an indie game dev with little to no reputation or marketing muscle, first impressions matter. So, a trailer which doesn't accurately show your game can make a huge difference. I think the best trailers pick 1 to 3 pillars and make those the key messages. Think of it this way. How would you describe a friend or family member to someone who's never met them before? For example, my friend Julio is Puerto Rican, really good at Chinese Kung Fu, and knows all there is to know about beer. That's Julio. We love Julio. Think about your game in these terms. For example, in Firewatch, you're a fire lookout who uses their walkie-talkie to communicate with their boss, and there's a mystery. Stray Gods is about Greek gods in a modern environment, there's a murder mystery, and it's an interactive musical. Venba is about Indian immigrants, cooking, and family. Breath of the Wild's key features are climbing and exploring, Link's new magic abilities, and the physics sandbox design which allows for play and experimentation. Give more significance to the key pillars of the game by dedicating the most time to them in the trailer. If your game is 3% story and 97% gameplay, don't make the trailer 50% story and 50% gameplay. So, how should you structure your game's trailer? First, stop making a trailer based off what you think a typical trailer looks like.
Here we come!
This means no protracted sequences of logos at the start, no title cards just for the sake of it, no voiceover just for the sake of it, no empty environment shots to slowly ease people into the trailer. Easing the audience into the trailer is a luxury you can afford if and only if you know the trailer will play in front of a captive audience who either can't look away or has already decided to watch trailers for the next 1 to 3 hours of their life. A trailer doesn't need to look like a trailer. Or feel like a trailer to be a legit trailer. It just has to be a short video which quickly sums up what the game is. For example, this trailer for Tiny Glade is a great trailer for Tiny Glade. It's just 5 shots, but it perfectly shows what Tiny Glade is and isn't. Also, it has perfect eye trace. Just watch as the cursor here goes. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. The music is chill, each shot builds upon the last one, introducing more game mechanics which keep things interesting. So, what order should you show the parts of your game in a trailer? Like I said at the start, structure the trailer like a good verbal pitch. This ensures you show things in an order which makes sense and layers new ideas through the trailer. For example, I'm going to give you a terrible pitch for Spelunky 2. Spelunky 2 is a game where you have a jetpack, save cats, there are boss battles, randomized levels, you dig holes, fight enemies, collect gems and money, and buy items and upgrades. Anyone who's never played or heard of Spelunky is very confused right now. What genre is it? Is it 2D, 3D, third person, first person? There are so many basic questions the audience needs answered to even begin forming a picture. I'm gonna give a better pitch. Still not the best pitch, but a much better start. Spelunky 2 is a side-scrolling platformer where you explore a mine, search for treasure, the level layouts randomize, so it's different every time you play. There are lots of enemies and traps whose behaviors and quirks you need to learn and master, and every single run you start with only 4 bombs, 4 ropes, and 4 hearts. There are lots of biomes and secrets to uncover. Much clearer, right? Now, of course, a bunch of you are thinking, but Derek, Trailers can be so much more than a verbal pitch because they use visuals, audio, and editing. Yes, but for most games, you still need to present information in a logical order for us to understand what the heck we're even seeing. I can't pitch you on a new food place that I'm opening a 30-minute drive away by first talking about flavors and toppings. I have to start with what food the place is serving. Even after explaining it's an ice cream shop, the next words out of my mouth can't just be flavors and toppings. The next part has to be, what makes my ice cream shop unique? If your pitch works through text alone, well-made and edited visuals and sound enhances the presentation. Starting by just throwing in a bunch of shots can make it harder to realize you're making a trailer which makes no sense. Just because you're showing images from the game doesn't mean the message is sinking in. Here's a great template for your game's pitch by game dev Jonas Tyroler from his video, What Sells on Steam, You Don't Need a Hook, which I highly recommend. Name is a genre game about fantasy. Verbs plus USP. So the name is of course the name of your game. Genre is something like side-scrolling platformer. And the fantasy is the role you inhabit or the thing that you do in the game. So for example, Uncharted's fantasy is being a globe-trotting adventurer. Peak's fantasy is climbing a huge mountain with your friends. PVKK's is operating a massive planetary defense cannon. And Unpacking's is unpacking, but fun. Verbs are the thing you do in the game, and the USP is the unique selling point. Using this template, here's Jonas's pitch for his game, Thronefall. Thronefall is a minimalist strategy game about building and defending your kingdom. You construct buildings during the day and fight along units during the night. Now that we know to structure trailers like a good verbal pitch, at least to start, what does this look like in practice? How this goes depends on the type of game you're making. Let's start with the easiest scenario, the truly hooky game. This is a game which has no comparison. In marketing terms, it's a first-to-market game. It's singular. There's little point of reference beyond a camera perspective or control scheme. Games like Tiny Glade, which I showed, Papers, Please, or Unpacking. These games pretty much just have to show how they work. Their trailers don't even have to get into details like the story and the plot or the goals of the player. They just need to show what the thing is. And the trailers for these games are excellent because they do just that. The trailer for Papers, Please is very much structured like a verbal pitch. The first 40 seconds show the basic game loop. Calling a person into your booth, receiving their passport, stamping it, then sending them on their way. 40 seconds on just the basics. The next 50 seconds show the twists and turns on the mechanic. New paperwork to check, new rules and mandates, searching for contraband, and people throwing pipe bombs. The last 15 seconds is a content montage, which shows a huge variety of faces. If you reverse engineer the trailer for Papers, Please and turn it into a verbal pitch, it sounds like this. Papers, Please is a game where you're an immigration inspector, where you call in immigrants one by one, you inspect their papers, and approve or deny their entry. The country you work in is the fictitious country of Arstotzka. Things grow more complicated as some people try to jump the border and attack with explosives. The number of documents you check will increase, requiring you to keep a closer eye on discrepancies. Some citizens require additional searches for contraband. There's a wide variety of people whose documents you'll have to search and approve or reject. This does not encompass the entirety of Papers, Please, but it was enough to pull the audience in because the concept was so novel at the time. The trailer for Unpacking is similarly straightforward. Here's how I'd reverse engineer a verbal pitch based on this trailer. Unpacking is a pixel art puzzle game where you start in a room with boxes. You open a box, remove objects, and place them in the room. You don't know what's going to be in the box, but they're revealed one at a time in rooms such as bathroom, kitchen. Some places will have multiple rooms to navigate. Objects like a pot might be in a living room box and need to be brought to your kitchen. It's up to you how to decorate your rooms. Some objects have light interactivity, like changing the poses on a wooden doll and turning on a GameCube-like console. Each of these rooms is part of one person's life. Most objects have no predetermined place to put them, but everything has to be put somewhere. You can unlock special stickers with unique combinations, like putting a toaster in the bathtub. Add these stickers in custom backgrounds if you want to share images of your rooms. Some objects, like a plush pig, carry across multiple levels. When emptied, boxes disappear with a delightful swoosh sound. There are many different levels to play. Looking at this audit of the trailer tells me this sequence of ideas was well executed. Okay, this is great for the games with a unique premise, but what about the majority of games which iterate on popular genres and formulas? This is a more difficult situation, but you still need to present things in a logical order. When you don't have a captive audience, show the genre as soon as possible. All most gamers need is to see the camera perspective and a bit of player-controlled gameplay to have a ballpark idea of the genre. What kind of game is this? 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 Or this? If the audience plays a lot of games, a single shot of gameplay where the player is visible is enough to flood their head with preconceptions and staples of the genre. Familiar camera angles and gameplay styles makes us think of each genre's anchors. If you're not familiar with the term, it was coined by Chris Zukowski of howtomarketagame.com. Anchors are common gameplay mechanics, conventions, and tropes copied from past games. Anchors reassure fans your game has the core thing which define the genre. For example, farming in a life sim, collecting coins in platformers, big maps in Metroidvanias, branching choices and upgrades in roguelites. Imagine a new Chinese restaurant opened near you. You'd probably scan their menu to see what it's all about. If it didn't have anchors like fried rice, lo mein, chow fun, and egg rolls, you'd likely question if it's a legit Chinese place at all. But if it does have those things, that's enough reassurance to then look for something unique to justify trying it over your usual favorite Chinese place. Anchors give us a starting point, which allows us to see what is unique and hooky. That's why it's essential to start with an in-game camera angle or player-controlled gameplay, which signals those anchors. In a verbal pitch, the first shot is the genre or genres. After starting with a genre-defining shot, the trailer needs to move onto what the unique or hooky thing is.
Oh, come on. Mr. Palmer left the car in reverse.
What you don't want to do after defining the genre is to spend time showing every little thing your game has in common with other games. This would be like if your pitch for a new Chinese restaurant was every dish you already expect to find in any Chinese place. Sure, we all need our staple go-to Chinese takeout spot, but once we have a good one, we need a distinguishing factor to take a chance on a different place. In contrast to anchors, hooks are what perk up our attention by showing something unexpected and literally game-changing. It changes the game just enough to create a whole new experience, like ice cream, but made with liquid nitrogen. Or in game terms, third-person action shooter plus cut off their limbs equals Dead Space. Open world plus Dark Souls equals Elden Ring. Tomb Raider plus a wrist grappling hook equals Tomb Raider Catalyst. Real talk, a lot of games don't actually have a strong hook. They just have something that's a little bit different, like an upgrade system or customizable powers or a different art style. Good hooks come in many forms. Here are some of the big ones. First to market. Here you want the reaction to be, ooh, that's new. This category is arguably the easiest thing for a trailer editor to work on because when you're first in the space, there's no one to compare you to. As long as it's interesting or compelling, you're good to go. Some good examples are Stray, the first big budget game where you play as a cat. Stray became shorthand for any game with a cat in it because it was the first to market and became a market leader in cat games. Ghosts of Tsushima, first AAA open-world game set in feudal Japan. Papers, Please, first immigration inspector document checking game. Next, a game can have a hooky world or premise where the reaction is, I want to explore that space, or I want to exist in that space. Some good examples are Dredge, cosmic horror fishing game, Journey with its beautiful art and peaceful vibes, and Half-Life 2 with its oppressive dystopian alien world. A game can also have hooky characters, which make people think, I want to be that character, or I want to interact with those characters. Some good examples, I think, are Dispatch, Venba, and Little Kitty Big City. A story can be the hook where you want the reaction to be, I want to see how that story unfolds. For example, Firewatch. A sad middle-aged man retreats to being a fire lookout because his wife has dementia. Sounds so fun. Death Stranding has a hooky story. No clue what's happening, but I'm curious. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has an incredibly hooky story premise. Everyone in the world is going to die when they turn 33? Why, yes. I do want to see why that is. Challenge can be a hook where the game has something which looks or feels like an interesting problem, and people react by saying, I want to prove myself with that. Some examples, Elden Ring and the Souls games. Cairn, baby steps. Types of hooky challenges can take so many forms. A game can also have a hooky mechanic or interaction where when people see it, they think, I want to play with that. I want to tinker with that, or I want to do that over and over. Superhot is a great example. First-person shooter where time only moves when you move. This upcoming game Reshine is a good example for people like me who spend too much time watching antique toy restoration videos on TikTok. Viewfinder is a good example because just look at this. Heck yeah, I want to do that over and over. Satisfactory and factory games can fit in here or in the challenge category. This can go so many ways. This list of hooks and the I want to explore that, I want to do that quotes are also from Jonas Tyroller's video. It's a good video. Now, let's see what a trailer made like a good verbal pitch looks like with Super Mario Odyssey. First-party Nintendo titles, of course, have a leg up because of their strong brand of quality games, but each new game still has to show what they've retained from previous games and what's new. This trailer starts with a cryptic cold open with a T-Rex. You'll notice there's no indicator of what genre the game is, or even what Nintendo game this belongs to. They could do this because this trailer played during an E3 presentation with a captive audience, though reputable brands like Nintendo can pretty much always make trailers as if they have a captive audience. Then we see the T-Rex is wearing a Mario cap with eyes on it. Then Mario jumps out. First message is, this is a Mario game. Next question, but what kind of Mario game? Is it a side-scrolling one or 3D one like Mario 64 or Mario Galaxy? The next shots show Mario driving in a city, Mario running across hills, and then in a familiar camera angle from behind as he runs through a desert. You might be wondering, Derek, but isn't this the environment montage you railed against? Yes, but it's Nintendo. And as soon as we knew it was a Mario game, our heads filled with everything we knew from years of playing Mario games. This is prior knowledge people have for popular Nintendo games, but won't have for a new indie game from a studio they've never heard of. So now, the message is a new core 3D Mario game. The next section is all about Cappy, the new thing or hook in Mario Odyssey. You can use Cappy to do things similar to previous games, but in a slightly different way. You can use Cappy to attack enemies and enhance your jumping and traversal abilities. If this were the only thing to show about Cappy, this pitch wouldn't be a huge change to the formula. But the next 30 seconds show the real hook of Mario Odyssey. Mario can possess enemies by throwing Cappy onto them. The first depiction of this is in the cutscene of Mario throwing Cappy and possessing a frog. The trailer takes its time making this concept very clear. After the frog cutscene, Mario jumps into many different enemies like a Goomba, Koopa, Bullet Bill, Rocket, Cannon, Robot, and a Cheep Cheep. With this section, the verbal pitch has become, this is a new core 3D Mario game where Mario has a cap he can use to traverse, attack, possess, and use the abilities of enemies like Goombas, Koopas, Bullet Bills, Rockets, Cannons, Robots, and Cheep Cheeps. After this section, the trailer switches to a montage of cutscenes, boss battles, and costumes. Soon after, it goes back to show more things Mario can possess, like chain chomps, taxi cabs, moai heads, other humans, and tanks. Then it comes full circle with Mario possessing the T-Rex from the open. This is a great trailer which shows a lot, but is very focused. Even with the end montage, the only thing I'd add to the verbal pitch is, just like other core Mario games, there are boss battles and tons of collectibles. Now, for games which don't have a very strong hook, I find that including the goal of the game or story makes the pitch much stronger. Another common mistake I see are trailers which focus on what you do in the game, but not what you're trying to achieve. The goal doesn't have to be big or meaningful, it just has to be there so we know what the game mechanics are working towards. It could be save the princess, or make number go big as possible. Without a goal, game mechanics can feel like a solution in search of a problem, but if you know the problem you're trying to solve, the mechanics and tools at your disposal take on new meaning. Imagine I showed you a hammer and talked about its features. How would you view that hammer? And how would your motivation to use that hammer change if the goal was build a cozy house, play a rhythm game, beat up a bunch of thugs trying to kill you? As an example, let's look at the announced trailer for the game Dosa Divas. I consulted on this trailer, and here's the first draft I received.
You punched her? She's our sister.
Here were the main problems I saw. I don't understand the goal of the game or the characters. I don't understand the relationship of the protagonists and the antagonist enough to be emotionally invested. I don't understand how the gameplay mechanics feed into the story and the player's goals. I asked Chandana Ekanayaka, the creative director at Outer Loop Games, what is the game loop and how does it connect to the story? Here's a summary of what he said. Amani, Samara, and Lena are sisters. Amani and Samara had a falling out with Lena, who later created a vast fast food empire. Her food is heavily processed and not nourishing to the soul in the way traditional home-cooked food can be. They wanted to take down Lena's fast food empire and possibly reconcile with her. To do that, they travel village to village in their food mech. Before Lena's food spread through the world, each village in their past had a specialty regional South Asian cuisine. The villagers are now malnourished and weak, so Amani and Samara cook for them, remind them what good food is, reconnect them with their culture, and restore them to life. Once restored, the villagers are able to help Amani and Samara progress in their quest to defeat and reconcile with Lena. Here are the most key solutions I proposed. Lena and her fast food empire need to be a much clearer antagonist. Their goal of taking down Lena's fast food empire needs to be much more explicit, and clarify how the player restores villagers, removes Lena's influence, and the villagers help out. Now take a look at the final announced trailer.
Lena Meals packs a punch.
No one cooks anymore.
Food in tubes? Yuck! I'm so hungry.
Big difference, right? I think so. I mean, of course I'd think so. I was a consultant. So let's go back to the pitch template from Jonas's video. Name is a genre game about fantasy. Verbs plus USP. This is a good start, but a trailer needs to show more than the basic game loop. It needs some twists and turns which explore the fantasy, the goal, and the things you do. Here's an expanded version for the purposes of making a trailer. Name is a genre game about fantasy. Verbs plus USP. Complications force you to verbs in order to goal. Using this, Dosa Divas' pitch is, Dosa Divas is a turn-based RPG game about two sisters piloting a food mech. You cook delicious meals, fight corpos, build your reputation with local communities, and reconcile with loved ones. Rocky relationships, friendships, and new enemies force you to learn new recipes and get new tools in order to take down your sister's fast food empire. And that's pretty much the basics of how to structure most game trailers, at the very least for a first draft. Once you put footage into a timeline, things can change a lot, but the most important thing is to put the information in a comprehensible order so the trailer is clear as possible. All the stylistic things you think of from trailers like match cuts, motion graphics, cuts to black, and sound effects are for polish. By the way, here's a look at how much time the trailer should dedicate to establishing the genre by showing some player-controlled gameplay. That's it. I said, as soon as possible. This next chunk is where you show the hook and what you do in the game. And here's where you explore twists and turns on the hook. What you do at the end of the trailer is up to you. Once your trailer has a solid foundation showing what the game is, you can be more loosey-goosey with what shots appear and in what order at the very end of the trailer. If the audience has a good understanding of the game, they're equipped to assume how the images fit. The end is also where maybe you spend a bit of time showing costumes and non-gameplay affecting cosmetics. And of course, you need the title and call to action. Just whatever you do, don't front-load the trailer showing only the anchors, things your game has in common with other games. Only worry about anchors if your hypothetical Chinese restaurant looks like it doesn't have the basic staples of the genre. And if that's the case, try to pepper in some anchors where it makes sense, but still focus on the hooks. To help build your video editing timeline, next, watch my video about starting a game trailer. Good luck.